many thanks for staying with us. You're watching NEWDAWN on Ogun State Television, and we do have another vital or interesting topic now. Yes, fintech, shortened from financial technology, it's a new movement that uses technology to assist financial services. Yes, that would be the crux of our discussion. Now we're looking at the involvement of fintech or fintech companies in the digital era. And we do have an IT expert in the studio. I'm talking about Damilola Adeyanju, the man in red. You're welcome to the program.
Okay, good morning.
Yes, I want to talk about fintech companies. I know some people will be wondering what fintech, how can we differentiate fintech from the conventional banks? Maybe let's start from that.
Okay. Fintech, actually, you mentioned it in your introduction, so it means financial technology. And I think in the early days, it used to be the back-end service that the financial service institutions, they used to make payments, used to run their stores in the background. So, but then recently we've had startups coming out to break these things into to render services directly to consumer. So it's not just at the back end of banking services or financial services now. So we now have it, we have companies now using it to render direct services to consumers. So we have payments, people into payments, we have people into lending, we have people into insurtechs and the likes. So that's what fintech is. Fintech is financial services that is being, should I say, augmented, or should I say being rendered, or should I say being backed up with technology. So that is what fintech is.
I know that we have many online lenders, these days, many apps.
Yes.
Just go there, put in your BVN, then you can get some loans, soft loans, basically. But now let's talk about the involvement of fintech. As the topic implies, involvement of fintechs in the digital era. How are the fintech companies evolving?
Okay, so I think, or should I say, from what we have seen, what happened is that the fintech companies, or should I say fintech startups, what they did is to break down banking services. Banking services are quite enormous. We have retail banking, we have a lot of other stuff, loan, investment, and the likes. So, but these fintechs have now come out to break these services, with the mindset that if you're able to maybe just zero in on one of these services, and then you develop your capacity, you innovate a lot, you are able to reach out to more people, you're able to render faster services, you're able to develop your UI in such a way that the service is simple. So that's why we now have that, okay, we have people into lending, and what they do is just lending. So they zero in on lending, and then with that lending, they are able to, reach more people, they are able to offer services at even lower interest rates and the likes. And we have people into payments, we have people into insurtech and the likes. So what the fintechs have done is that they have broken down banking services into smaller bits, and then they have zeroed in to become masters.
Let me take you. Does fintech, does it operate solely online?
Yes.
Solely online?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a cooperation with other financial institutions, or fintech is an institution that is all pervasive and is able to stand by itself?
Okay, that's a very, very tricky question. So actually, okay, like I said when I started, I said fintech is financial services enabled by technology. That is what it is. So, and it does not only ends with our mobile apps used for lending and for all of those things. So we also have some back-end services too that the banks does, and then all of that is enabled by technology. So that's also fintech. But in this concept, fintech actually is services enabled, financial services enabled by technology. Some of it's very difficult to say that the fintechs can exist without the banks, or they can exist alone, because you know, the financial sector is heavily regulated. So they have licenses, they have some regulations that do not allow them to do some certain things. You know, there are some of them that are into payments, there are some of them that are into switch, just to receive payment and push it to the other end. Those ones don't have the capacity to hold onto funds. They cannot hold funds. They are switch, they are just to, you know, push. So for those ones now, they cannot hold funds. So that means they have to receive funds from somewhere and push it to another place. So it is very difficult to say that the fintechs can exist alone without the banks. Although I know many of them will say no, the banks.
Are conventional banks also part of the fintech community, because they also use technology? Okay.
So what the conventional banks have done is that they have created, shall I say, a sublet to compete, let me use that word in quotes, compete with the fintechs. So we now have a digital banking platform. We have digital banks. We have some banks that even are fully digital, but they are a sub-product of the main bank itself. So those ones are fintechs, because those banks, they do almost everything that fintechs does. But then the slight difference is that many of the fintechs are quite specialized. So that's why you see that we still have them in, we have them into payments, we have them into different sectors like that. So they are specialized, they focus on one area. But then the digital banking might be a bit cumbersome, because it is now extending the normal banking process. You are just rendering it digitally. So it is still the same, almost the same thing, but it's just that you don't have to come into the banking or to come and do this and that. So you might still have to go through some of the same protocols that you go through when you are inside the bank, but you cannot do that digitally. You can do that on your mobile phone at the convenience of your house. So, but then the fintechs have zeroed in and say, okay, this is what we want to do. We want to go into lending, and then they just do lending. And then they keep on innovating. You know, sometimes when you zero in on one thing, you become master, and then you know it's easy for you to innovate, easy for you to break it into simpler bits. And then another thing is that the interface, the user experience that people have with fintechs, maybe the fintech platform, the main fintech platform is quite simpler than the digital banks, because the digital banks, we have a whole lot on the mobile app, but then in the fintechs that are specialized, you have them, having it is simpler. It's just, so when you know that, okay, I just want to do lending, I just want to loan, maybe as an SME, you just want to loan, so you go to the lending app, you know that all of the things you are seeing there, it is directed towards lending, so okay, it's all of that. But in the digital bank, then you have a lot of things to, and then people with in IT, we have seen that user experience, user interface is very, very important. People tend to go towards what they understand, what is easier for them to understand. They don't like those, a lot of process and all of that. So when they see that, okay, it is easier here, it is, I just go here, I just do this. So,
but conventional banks are also evolving. I know that many banks now do give soft loans to their customers, something fintech startups do always. So how can we then differentiate? Now we're talking about digital banking, I've talked about fintech. So many of the things fintech startups do, conventional banks are also doing that. They also have apps.
Yes.
And the soft loans with 4%, 5% interest, while some of the fintech startups will even take as high as 10%, 20% interest.
Okay, so yes, I've said that in the other explanation I gave, that it's about, it's about user experience, and it's about making things simple.
Okay, so that's just
that's
the differentiation.
Yes. So many of the banks, offer such too in their digital platforms and in their digital banks, but assessing it is another thing. So, but the fintechs, they just zero in on this, and then they make a lot of noise, and like, we are doing this, we are doing this, we are doing this.
Let's now take you on lending. When you say they also enter into lending, does it mean that are they like finance houses? Or can I, for example, get funds from fintech?
Yes, yes. Those into lending, they can give out funds at different interest rates. So yeah, they do that a lot. And so those are the ones into lending. We have some into payments, and so those into payments now can some of them just what they just do is that they make payments, receiving payments for any SMEs very easy. So for example, if we have some of them, I don't want to mention them, but then we have some of them that what you just do is you just with a few steps registering online, you can now incorporate them in your websites, or even just generate a link that you can send to your customers to receive payments from them.
Okay, now how does this now pay me? How does this benefit? For example, I already have a bank that I use. I've developed the relationship with that bank for years, and then so how does fintech now come in? Where is the place of fintech in my own financial interaction?
Okay.
Transactions and interactions.
Okay. Yeah. So now, from my study, I've seen that the fintechs are more user, shall I say, driven.
Okay.
They tailor their apps, they tailor their services towards making it easy for the users.
Okay.
But for the banks, it might be more of products. They look at their product and say, okay, this is this. So that's why we have the fintechs, shouting most of those things at our faces. You go online, as you are scrolling, you are seeing adverts of people into lending. Do you need this loan? 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 But then the banks have a lot of products, a lot of them they are pushing those products to you. They are telling you, okay, this bank, come and open this account, come and do this, come and do that, come and do that. But for the fintechs, they are specialized. So what they are pushing to you is the services that they render, and it is straight. So and then interacting with their platform is quite simple. It's quite simple, and then because they are specialized, it is easy for them to innovate. They are great innovators. So you see often they are bringing updates to how they are rendering their services and all of that. So those things, we have found out over time that the user interface, the user experience are some of the things that they have used to attract customers even from the digital bank that we have.
Is there a future do you see a future for fintech?
Yes. The fintechs has it come to stay, or it's just a flash in the pan? the fintechs have come to stay, we must say, and you will see that actually even from how the banks are, shall I say, responding to their involvement. So you see that the banks are also creating digital platforms, coming up with digital products just to match up. But I'm not seeing it as a competition per se. I'm seeing it as more of collaboration, because the fintechs have the innovation. They are great innovators, so they are thinking per seconds. How do we make this particular service? How do we render it? How do we make it more simple for people to access and all of that? And then the banks have, they have the, shall I say, they have the database. They have they've grown over time too, so they have the people. So what I see that the fintechs can gain from the bank, and the bank can gain from the fintechs, in the sense that the fintechs can, for some of them that I don't know, I've been mentioning lending a lot. So for them that's into lending now can access data to say, okay, I want to lend out money to this person, but I want to know the person's, should I say, is it credit? If the person is credit worthy, the banks have some of those data that they can tell you that this person is credit worthy, or this person is owing this, the person is owing already. So you would use that to take your decision. So that will help you, that will guide your decision.
No, but yeah, you've spoken glowingly about fintech startups, especially those ones into lending. But on the other hand, I've had people complain bitterly about the method they use to get back their loans, especially for those that wants to default, or for those that are defaulting. Calling relatives, calling people that are close to you, then you just see a message and say so person has borrowed some funds and yet to pay back, and the way they also insult their customers. Conventional banks are really, I think they are more professional, in that regard. What about that? Is that not one of the disadvantages?
Yes, but I think that has been addressed. We have, there are regulations already. So I think that has been addressed already by the regulatory body in charge of maybe data. We are looking at NEWDAWN. So if you notice that recently we don't have such coming up again because, innovations actually drives regulation. The innovators will always be ahead. They will create new things. So, but then that will now call for the regulators to now say, okay, this thing is new, it's out. So now what do we do? How do we control it? How do we regulate it? So, when that, the banks are already, yes, they are professional in their approach, and then the fintechs into lending came up and they made it easily accessible. The banks had protocol, they had processes that you have to go through. So they don't need to chat your relative or so to access. They have maybe collateral or whatever. They've gone through some processes before they can give it out to you. But then the fintechs into lending might not even, without collateral, without anything, they just lend it out to you. So when they don't get it, when they don't get their funds back, then they are thinking of how do we do that. So they are going through many. So, but of course, once an innovation comes out, the regulators will have to step up to say, okay, this is what we do to regulate this. So I think I'm very sure that the regulatory bodies in charge of data privacy and all of that have.
But I know that for banks, banks still need do not need the consent of their customers to take back to their loans. They just deduct it once your account has been refunded, and they even send message before time that refund your account. Once your account is refunded, once you have money in your account, they take back their loans. But what about fintech companies? Do they need the consent of their customers to deduct the loans?
Well, it depends. When they have, shall I say, policy or agreements that you sign. So if you follow through the process, you will see that there are some of them that require that you drop your card details, whatever, before you even receive the money. So dropping that gives them access to that particular account, so they can withdraw from that account without your, it's a straightforward process. You drop your details with them, they have your details to take money from the account that you have dropped. So,
but are you not worried by the proliferation of fintech startups, especially the ones into lending? There are so many, online lenders, so many. Are you not worried?
No, there's no worry. It's once it's regulated, I don't think there's any worry. I think it has even helped a lot of startups, a lot of SMEs to access loans without collateral. So I don't see it as a worry as long as it is well regulated. As long as they are well regulated. Let me just say. So
now, when you say they are well regulated, how strong is that regulation? Because this issue of getting into contacts and all of that and sending messages, unsolicited messages. I have received some messages like that I don't even know who is sending me the message, and you are wondering, okay, but I read from somewhere that they don't have the right to do that, and you are talking about regulation. Is that regulation really strong? Are there people, when you are talking about regulation, is there is there punishment? Is there for people who break these regulations?
Yes, of course. So once there's a regulation, there will be penalty for you if you default. It doesn't mean that there will be defaulters. So people will still default, but once they are reported or once they are found out, of course, they will have to face the penalty. So yes, they are regulated, and then there are penalties for defaulting the regulations.
Are they just into lending? Are they into other areas like insurance, trading?
Yes,
and stuff.
Yes, so we have those into wealth tech, those ones who does investments, and even some of the platforms you can use it to buy stocks. Even internationally, you can buy stocks on them, do investments, and then Yes, yes. So it's safe. It's safe.
Because these days there are hackers all around, and when you give your details and you just find out the next day everything is gone.
Everything is gone. Okay, so it's still the same thing with even using normal banks. The banks will tell you that don't give out your details. Be very sure. All this what we call phishing. Be very sure of the platforms where you give your details to. Be very sure of the sites. So when the sites will look very identical with that of the bank, but there are differences. So, but if you are using the right platform, then you are very, very safe. Because they are cyber security conscious and all of that.
Now, is there not a collaboration? Because there are some banks, if you look at, I won't want to mention names now, there are some banks that even if you are not very careful on the net, you would think, the platforms are actually representing those banks. And the banks know, but the banks have not come out to put a disclaimer. For example, assuming I am XYZ Bank, and somebody now rises up on my own this thing and says it's also NYS, he doesn't now call it XYZ, he now calls it XYZ, at the same time using my logo. Is that not infiltration? Is that not coming on my own platform, which I have a right to, move myself away from? But the banks don't do that.
No. Most of the banks do that. If you follow through, you see, you get emails. I get emails from the banks that I use. They're telling you that, check through. That's what we call phishing. So they tell you, check through. Some of them may just put maybe a very funny character. And then so the names look so identical. But then the banks know that they are going to lose. They are going to do so. There's no way the banks will see that.
One that looks identical. I would have expected the bank, for example, if it wants to do a corporate social responsibility, do a close-up of that. Let people know this is not representing us. Not this one you will just say, don't give anybody. But once you see anybody that is writing anything, using your logo, using something that is close to what you have, that can deceive people, that can mislead people, the bank will just take a snapshot of it and say, we don't recognize this one. It's like somebody using my name on Facebook and it says it's representing me. I can easily come to tell people, look, this is not G. Akintayo, this is not me. But the banks don't do that. They just leave you and then they just write, don't give your detail to anybody. It doesn't help anybody. When anyone on the road will just think this is an affiliate of this bank. And before you know it is done business with.
Well, I know a couple of banks that does that. They will tell you this is not our site. So they put the two. Okay. This is our website, this is ours. So they mark this as correct, they mark this as wrong. So just to let people know and I think maybe not all the banks actually people know the banks that are doing well maybe when it comes to internet banking and all of that. So those are the ones that are the target of the phishers that they know like people use this a lot, they use this platform a lot. So those are the ones. So but I've seen a couple of banks that send messages with those with disclaimer. So and even when you enter into their banking or you see maybe videos playing here and there telling you that this is a wrong website, this is our website, and then they also tell you another thing they tell you is that some of them may not even bring out the website, they may not see the website itself, but then there are guidelines. For example, there is something that we call SSL security, a green logo that appears when you open a secured website. So they will tell you that once you open when you want to click on any link that looks like our website and you are not getting that green SSL padlock, then you know that is not, that don't put your pin or anything like that. So a couple of banks are doing that.
As we wrap up these segments, I'm aware that existing fintech companies in India have gained 1/3 of new revenue at the cost of traditional banks, and also in the United Kingdom. I think there is one fintech startup that has about 1.5 million subscribers and 350,000 are active. So, my last question is, are fintech companies a threat to conventional banks or banking?
To me, no. I would say no, and that's because if I'm a bank and I have a very strong IT department with some very nice innovators, great ideas, there is nothing that the fintechs are doing that I should not be able to offer. So, but the main thing that has always been, the advantage for the fintechs is that specialization, because they are able to, penetrate. So, but I see more of collaborations than, competition. So, there are certain things that the fintechs, of course, will want to do, but if there's a collaboration between the fintechs and the banks, I think they will grow side by side. They will grow side by side. There are some of the fintechs that cannot hold funds. They are just, they just receive and they forward to the bank. So I don't see those ones. The only thing is that people will just use that platform, to do more payments or this and that. But then it still comes back to the bank. So I see more of collaboration. And then I see
than competition,
and I see the fintechs are just trailblazing, creating a lot of innovations. But then with time also the banks too that have digitally strong too, of course now, they will catch up and
Finally, just if I can take this quickly.
Do that.
So many of them are still thinking of becoming a bank. They're even gathering information, trying to do their own platform online. Are you sure? And you are sure it's not going to be a threat to commercial?
Yeah, some of them are calling for savings, saying you can save with us.
Yes,
something conventional banks do. So if you say they don't hold money, but by the time you can save, can deposit,
Yeah, that's I'm saying. I will not say all of them. No, there are some of them. It depends on what you are specialized in. Like I mentioned that some are just switch. So the ones that are switch don't actually hold funds. They just, they just serve as a middleman to push funds. But if you look at the trends in the fintechs, the fintech players are not really looking at going back into having the physical building, because many of them are looking at it. It's even if you look at it, the costs and all of that is off them. So many of them they just have a physical office, just one physical office. You don't have branches that you have to go, because every other thing that you can do, they can digitize it. So there's no need for the fintechs to now look at saying let us start having, so every other thing, even the savings that we are calling for, every other thing you can do, you can do it. And then many of them even tell you that you are doing your savings, but then the savings, they tell you that attach your bank card, so it's still coming from the bank also. And then to the ones that are into payments, still we tell you that we will receive the payment for you, but then we will supply us with a bank that we will remit the payment.
Some of them are giving cards now. They are going into the trend of giving cards also.
So it's more of collaboration than.
Many thanks, Damilola Adeyanju and IT experts. Thanks for honoring our invitation. I think that's a good place to leave it. Well, we keep following trends as regards fintech developments in Nigeria. So thanks for watching. NEWDAWN continues on Friday with another set of anchors. But tomorrow, the Yoruba version of the program, or Tojo, will definitely come your way. Tuji,
I think it's been quite a good day. We want to thank you very much for coming on the setup. And all the other guests that we had, Mr. Comrade Inka Falari. It's a new dawn, a new day, and have a blessed day. This is Ogun State Television. All other programs continue after this.